This is Rick Radowski of WeAreChange.org here in Acapulco, Mexico at the TDV Summit, where we are hearing from a lot of incredible speakers. One including, of course, Doug Casey, international entrepreneur, OG, traveler, expert, expat, speculator, investor, so many things we could name. Doug Casey, really just someone who has been a huge pioneer when it comes to many alternatives to mainline finance and mainline thinking. And in this video, Doug Casey just gave a speech about the clash and the fall of Western civilization, and we are going to be talking about a lot of different issues surrounding that. But specifically, the first question I really wanted to talk to you about, Doug, is with a lot of speculators talking about economic calamities within the United States. The United States has been really, and other economies as well, printing a bunch of money. And the dollar has been, pretty significant on the world stage. The United States has become energy independent. How do you see this kind of finagling of the economy with the larger context of what you just talked about when it comes to the kind of fall of Western civilization?
Well, there are a lot of reasons why the West is in collapse right now, and we don't have time to go into all of them. That would take about another hour's speech. But a very important element of it is the collapse of the dollar. Not only the Federal Reserve, but all of the central banks around the world since 2007, that crisis, have been printing up trillions and trillions of new currency units. So all of these fiat paper currencies are going to reach their intrinsic value in the relatively near future. Well, what to say about it? It's that the currency is the lifeblood of a society. It's the way you give objective value, relative value to everything. So the fact that these criminals are in charge of the monetary system, it's a guarantee for disaster.
Now, one of the interesting things that I really took away from your kind of talk as well, and also just having a dinner with you last night, was talking about the two kind of things that are preventing this kind of a bigger clash, this kind of bigger fall, and that is two specific things that you brought about. Would you mind sharing that with our audience here, the two biggest things standing in the way of a total kind of crash?
Yes, there are two factors that are mitigating the collapse. One is that people are a lot like squirrels. They're wired to put away nuts for the winter. They're wired, basically, genetically, to produce more than they consume and save the difference. So they'll continue to do that no matter what goes on, because it's just the way they are. In fact, the worse things get, the more likely that they're going to try to produce more because they're afraid and save more. The problem, of course, is that people save in the form of currencies, and you destroy those currencies, you can wipe out their savings. Nonetheless, savings is a good thing. And that's point number one. Number two is science and technology. There are more scientists and engineers alive today than have lived in all previous history put together. And they're doing what scientists and engineers do. They're inventing stuff and building stuff, and at an accelerating rate. I mean, at the beginning of history, you learn how to make fire. Wait 100,000 years. Learn to do a bow and arrow. Wait 25,000 more. Learn to domesticate the horse. Accelerating curve, but slow. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's picked up. Now there are new inventions and discoveries, not every month, not every week, not every day, but probably dozens of times per hour. And that's what's going to make things better also, those two factors.
Yeah, and it's really something to think about, because no matter how bad government screws up or gets in the way of innovation or gets in the way of progress or gets in the way of speech or gets in the way of just free thought and thinking, there's always this kind of perpetual technological curve that really is always looking and seeking out a solution to a lot of the bigger problems out there. The people's kind of ability to also have like a sixth sense, just like kind of animals are always kind of escape zones where there's going to be a big earthquake or a big tsunami. I think humans also have a very similar kind of, system within them to be like, okay, well, we got to always prepare for the worst because there's one constant, and that there is no constant. Things always change. And one of the things that you were really, really talking about is this larger change happening right now, especially with Western civilization. You gave off 12 unique characteristics of Western civilization, and you brought up 6 causes of them. Your speech was very interesting. I'm not going to make you go over the whole entire speech because that would be an hour here, but what would you think was the most important characteristic and effect that you brought up just right now?
Well, look, the 12 underlying unique characteristics of Western civilization, free thought, free speech, and so forth, they're all equally important. It's hard to answer that question, but look, most people don't care about the reasons why. They don't care about the theory. They've been told that Western civilization is the corrupt and destructive product of old white men, and all they're interested in are the fruits of the civilization. You know, they like the literature and the art and the music, but those are being degraded too. So I don't see any way out of the decline at this point because the younger generations, for at least the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, have been educated by Marxists, and they totally control the educational system. Absolutely the universities, absolutely the high schools, even the grade schools. And the concepts they've been drumming into kids, it's hard to get a concept out of your mind when it's drummed into you as a 7-year-old, have corrupted the way people think. So it's hard to undo that, okay? It's hard to unbreak that egg.
Yeah, the kind of indoctrination and the call for more free indoctrination always kind of boggles my mind, especially seeing just the corruption of the school system. Personally going to public school in New York City, I mean, it was like jail. It's essentially jail. I'm visiting my friend in jail right now as well, and they have the same facilities, the same construction companies, the same tables. It's the same kind of a big industry that really does the opposite of what it says it usually does for most part. Not always, but most part. But you're also a big kind of traveler. You've been to, I think, 155 countries. You lived in 10 of them. Looking at everything, some people are pointing to Asia as this kind of new emerging place. Do you also see it that way? And do you see maybe Asia continuing some of the kind of Western ideas and the Western values that you see in decline in the West?
Yeah, look, it's been said that the average Chinese has about 5 IQ points on the average European. So they're not stupid. And they're taking the things they like from Western civilization, but they're missing a lot of the most important basic factors. So I'm afraid that although I'm a big fan of Asia, and it's full of crazy rich Asians at this point, they're no longer grubbing for roots and berries. They're no longer a bunch of peasants waddling around in rice paddies. That's ancient history. But I'm afraid they're missing a lot of the essentials that made Western civilization what it is. They're mainly adopting the technology and the engineering and the science and putting that on a basis of Chinese culture. I don't know. We'll see how it works out in 100 years.
It's definitely an interesting time, but definitely one filled with many shifts and many different changes. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the speech. That was great. Where can people find out more about you? You also have a new book coming out. Where can people find that as well?
Well, I do a lot on our blog, internationalman.com, so they should definitely subscribe to that. A lot of interesting stuff. Quite good, if I do say so myself. And I have a series of 7 novels, the first 2 of which, Speculator and Drug Lord, are out, following the career of our hero, Charles Knight, as he reforms unjustly besmirched occupations the one that's coming out in July is Assassin, where Charles decides that there are just some people that need killing. And it talks about the history and the morality and the techniques of political assassination. So you've got to read that one before Terrorist comes out next year, which will also be very exciting.
Awesome. Well, Doug, thank you so much for joining us here on this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us here at Acapulco. This event is still going to be continuing all week long as we pan around here, show you the little lunch break that's gone after. Thank you so much, Doug, for sharing this lunch break with me. Check out Doug's links in the description below. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you, amazing human beings, for watching and being a part of this independent media broadcast. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here, and this is why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.